The surge of migrants making their way across the U.S. southern border is impacting America in ways few have ever considered. Here in Humboldt County, California, migrants seeking to escape poverty and oppression often unwittingly find themselves in situations worse than the ones they were fleeing. Police here are finding a majority of illegal marijuana grow operations are using illegal migrants for what amounts to slave labor.
So labor is one of the biggest liabilities when it comes to marijuana. And so right now you have the price so low, $500, $600 a pound, that they can't afford to pay the high price for labor. There's so many legal markets or legal grows here in the state that we know that a lot of that marijuana is going outside the legal channels. We have a track and trace system that's not truly a track and trace system. And so we know that there are product that's going out the back door and that people still have channels back to the East Coast from California growing here and selling the product out of state, which is not legal. They can only supposed to sell it to licensed dispensaries here in California. But we have so many legal operations that if you truly have all that legal marijuana going into the legal markets here, the markets will be flooded. And so it is not something that we've been ignoring. We know, and we've actually followed up on a lot of legal grows here that are doing things wrong. And whether it's code enforcement or state licensing enforcement or criminal enforcement, we're going after those people and holding them accountable.
The negative impact of these illegal grows not only affects the local economy, but it increases crime and poses severe environmental costs. Illegal marijuana growing here in California isn't just a driver of 70% of all of the illegal marijuana grown in the United States. It's not just the driver of a tremendous amount of illegal migration into this country. It's also a problem for what you see right here behind me, this clean water that is so precious here in California, especially as they come off a 100-year drought. And that's because these illegal marijuana grows literally take billions of gallons of drinkable water out of the system, and it makes it a lot more expensive for consumers here in the Golden State.
I cannot stress enough how important it is to make water conservation a priority, not only for cartel crimes, but any type of criminality. And who would have thought that cartels would be responsible for one of the biggest resources that we need on this earth, the depletion of our water? Well, the game has changed it's changed progressively over the last 10 years, but especially in the last 2 or 3. We've seen the Mexican cartels are still involved in the illegal cannabis trade, and they've gone mostly to private land. Fortunately, they're moving further and further out of our public lands and our national forests. They're still out there a little bit, but mostly they're on private land now because since we've regulated in California, as an example, under Prop 64, that crime is a misdemeanor. And for a juvenile offender, it's an infraction. So the cartels have now been incentivized, unfortunately, to hide in plain sight, knowing they're probably not going to get busted, they're probably not going to go to jail, and they may lose their plants if they're raided, but usually they're going to have many other operations where they're growing plants. But the influx of another cartel cell, specifically the Asian cartels, the Hmongs and the Chinese, coming from the Midwest and the eastern side of the country to areas like Humboldt, Siskiyou, Shasta County in Northern California, Oklahoma now, they're all over the place.
What's most surprising to these cops is the fact that 95% of those they arrest are illegals, with an increasing number of them coming from China.
The Asian cartels, primarily the Hmong and the Chinese out of the eastern part of the country, are coming to states like Northern California, Oklahoma, and other states, and they're growing basically on private land in plain sight because they know they have very, very little chance of getting any type of criminal charges against them or of doing any jail time.
Marijuana is grown here in the Emerald Triangle, but not because the soil is great, the environment's great, it's because it's the geography. They're living miles and miles behind locked gates, miles away from civilization. If there's a gunshot in the middle of the night, no one's reporting that. There's no cell service, there's no utilities, they're living totally off the grid. And so these people are truly trapped there.
And these aren't small operations.
We're seeing it on private land grows that are just illegal. Big hoop houses next to a little ranch house that has 2,000 plants in it. And now they've got nasty banned pesticides sprayed all over the plants that's drying invisible on the plants to unsuspecting consumers on the black market all over the country that are ingesting this stuff, having no idea what they're smoking when they're looking for that natural high.
As more states seek to legalize marijuana, cartels are taking advantage to increase their revenues with off-the-books operations that take a heavy toll on the society as well as the environment. From Eureka, California, I'm Chuck Holton.